So, Dom, how have you been, mate? Okay?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Busy at the moment.
Yeah. Right. So, we'll touch on that after, hopefully, mate, and how well you're both doing and that. But before we get stuck into your rugby story, Dom, where was home for you and who lived with you as a kid?
To be honest, mate, I went to school in Widnes, but I lived in Warrington. My dad's from Warrington, so we moved up there when we were younger, and we used to travel into Widnes every day. So I actually support Warrington, believe it or not, or used to support Warrington.
Is that well known, Dom?
It was through probably when I was a little bit younger. I don't really support anyone now, so not as much. Obviously, playing, it's kind of been you support whoever you're playing for. So when I was at Saints to do well. When I've been at Dewsbury, I've been focused at like Dewsbury results. I've not really had time to go and watch, say, Warrington and stuff, really. So just like a good game on the telly, really.
Fair enough, mate. So how was rugby introduced to you and who was it and where was it at?
I'm not honestly too sure, to be honest. Obviously, my uncle used to play a little bit. My dad liked Warrington, so I sort of just started playing when I was young, really. And then started playing when I was like 4, but I played a year up at the Hornets, the year above me. So sort of just had to learn quite quick, really.
So was that school and rugby you were playing out of town for you then, mate, wasn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. So you had to play for the town you lived in. So I just used to stick my nan's address down so I could play in Widnes with the lads.
Oh, right, okay. Because I know I'm a little bit older than you, mate, so I know as we got older, a few lads I know done that sort of thing. So Tom Wood, Chris Eden, people like that. I know Dicko done it at Warrington to play for Saints. So it's a bit of a mad one, isn't it? It just should be able to play where you want to play, sort of thing. So what school did you go then, mate?
So I was started at Ditton Primary and then went to Wade Eakin then.
All right. So did you play any town team stuff, Dom?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I played the year above.
Yeah.
I managed to get in a year early, so I'd done town team twice, to be honest. Apparently, I was the first person to wear white boots for the town team.
It was a rarity, mate. And I hope they were clean as well. Roger the D for that, wasn't
he? We only had a couple of games left, and my black ones had ripped the week before, and Roger, he wasn't happy about it. But they were white, yeah.
No, class. So, do you remember much about the process of selection, Dom, and how you felt doing it, mate?
Do you know, that was the first proper trials I'd ever sort of done. Obviously, when we was a little bit younger than that, it was kind of just she was in the team, and then I wouldn't say nervous, but it was a bit of a weird concept turning up, and there was hundreds of kids from your age all having like little mini games, to see who got in. And it's probably the first thing you ever think, do you reckon I'll get in this? Because obviously,
and you felt like that as well.
Yeah, especially the first year when obviously everyone was a little bit older than me. Probably edged me back a little bit and knew I was going to be in the next year because I'd already been in, the previous year. But especially the first year, mate, yeah.
Yeah. And positional-wise, mate, was you always in the pivot positions?
No. So growing up, I played standoff and loose forward mostly at loose forward. And then when we was at Saints, played a little bit of standoff through the academy. Playing hooker just come a little bit later, really. Forgot to grow.
So, do you know when you're flicking between 6 and 13, even as a kid? Because as you get older, you'll understand the game a bit more, won't you, mate? What was the difference that you found? Or did you find it any different? Was rugby just rugby to you?
Rugby was just rugby, really. I obviously preferred getting my hands on the ball quite a lot. So when I was young, I preferred to play 13, but it would sort of depend who we had in the side at what position. Like when we was playing at school, I sort of had to play standoff, and if we played at the Hornets, I got to play loose forward a little bit more. We had a good side at the Hornets, so there was good people in each position, really.
Right. And what was the role of the 13 at your age coming through? Because the role would have been different for me, because the game's changed between our years, haven't it? And
when I was coming through, it was a little bit more the sort of Kevin Sinfield role. So you still could get your hands on the ball a lot. You could still kick. Not long after that, it sort of did go to like an extra prop, really, or an extra middle. And then obviously it's on the way back now, isn't it? Like a bit more, especially with that 6 again rule. So it's probably not as quite what it's like now, but a little bit more so.
Yeah. So how was your transition into high school? Was it you find it would probably easier because of the rugby?
Oh, definitely, mate. So
Yeah.
I only went to high school with a couple of lads from primary school, but obviously we're playing in the town team and the service area and whatnot. It was easy. You join the rugby team and you're straight in then. You know all the lads from day one, and probably spend more time with them because we used to get like Wednesdays off school and we'd go and play in like the National Cup and have a bus journey down and stuff. So it was a good laugh, really.
Yeah. And how did you find the standard from school rugby to club rugby?
So our club rugby at the Hornets, when I went back to my age group, it was really good. We had like Mark Percival, obviously he's won everything pretty much he can.
Yeah.
We had Gilly, Tom Gilmore, we had Jack Owens, we had the likes of Lewis Hume who've gone on to play in like for Wales and in the Championship. Lewis Whitty, who played for England all the way through academy, and the likes of Alex Clare, who signed full time at Saints, but he had to retire because he had a couple of shoulder injuries. So we had a really, really good team at the Hornets. We won the National Cup when we were 14, and we was always then, like there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
But then when we played at school, it was an even split. So it was like half of us sort of went to Wade and half went to P&P. So
that'd have been a decent game then, that, wasn't it? Yeah.
Little rivalry, to be honest, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. So having just look, because I know a few of them lads, mate. So look in there, you've got your 7, your full, but you've managed probably like Yama would have played hooker, wouldn't he? So your spine's solid, isn't it?
Yama and Gilly played 6 and 7, and I played 3.
Right. So it's a good spine, mate.
Yeah, Steve Ball played 9, and obviously Steve Ball went all the way up to playing reserves.
Yeah, and it's mad really because Steve can do both. He's not scared of the rough carries, is he?
Yeah,
and he can distribute, can't he, mate? So it is a good side really. So when you're in them tournaments, then are you sort of, because we all grow up to know Saints are good, Wigan are good. One of them were all right, my age, probably better at your age. We'll use the team that people looked at as the danger team.
So we like, John Bateman was my age, and we played against Bradford once, and obviously John Bateman was as big as he is now as a 14-year-old kid, and not long after we'd played against Bradford, we rocked up at like England Academy, and he was like, we got there and you were all small, and we thought, we'll batter these today, and we turned them over, and it was sort of like from then everyone thought, these are decent, to be fair.
Yeah, good, mate. So you've just touched on that, so let's reverse it a little bit. So you've gone service area, which for people, watchers and listeners, town team changes terminology, doesn't it, mate? And it turns into service area. So was service area every year or every 2 for you, Dom?
It was every year for us. I think we done town team till 11, and then I think I done 2 years of service area. Then we had Paul Hume, Dave Hume coaching 1 year, and then the next year we had Neil Burke and Gaz.
Right. So what comes after that for you? Are you asked to go regional, or are you asked to?
So yeah, when you're at youth service area, they kind of come and they send the scouts down, and then you go to sort of regional camp. And then if you do well at regional camp, we went and played for Lancashire, and we played against Yorkshire and like a Cumbria side. So if you do well there, you sort of get picked for national camp off the back of that.
And what were you like in the new environment outside of the one you half now?
I didn't really mind, to be honest, mate. It was like it was in the middle of the summer holidays. It was a decent week. When we was at scholarship at Widnes, after John Four, and a guy took over called Stu Wilkinson, and he was coach for our red side at regional camp. So it was like pretty familiar, good few of my mates and stuff. I ended up getting Top Gun at national camp that year, so at regional camp that year, so didn't do too bad.
Yeah, and is that again at 13, mate? Yeah.
That'd have been 13, 14, mate, yeah.
Yeah, right. So where does that leave a lad at that age? Do you keep concentrating at school and do a bit of both? Are you solely on the rugby at this point?
No, to be honest, mate, I didn't mind high school. So high school and school, they sort of just went hand in hand. I didn't mind. It was more towards when I went to college that I sort of lost a bit of love for a bit of the education, really.
Yeah. we just boxed it, don't we? And hope the rest falls in, mate. So does national camp come along with that big title? And does that put a marker on you, do you reckon?
Yeah, so I was playing 13 at the time. Obviously, John Bateman was in the squad. He played 13 as well. We had Stevie Ward as well, who played.
Yeah.
He was my age, so it was a tough gig. So I did end up playing 9 for England at under 15s, under 16s before I'd even played 9 later on in my career. It was obviously a tough team to crack. So it was kind of just getting in where I could.
Yeah. And how do you see the game different from 6, 13 or 9 at that age, Dom? Are you seeing it different yet?
Probably not, no. It wasn't until I got a little bit older. And when I went full-time at Saints, Nathan Brown sort of he stripped the game back and we done big, long video sessions, but they were all you learned a lot, and then sort of whatever position you played in then, you looked for what your other position was doing. So if you ever had to transition in a game and stuff, you're seeing things differently. When I was a little bit younger, I sort of just off the cuff and whatever I fancied at the time. But then as you get older, you can start playing a couple of plays ahead then.
Yeah. And is there ever a time when you have noticed that you are seeing things a couple of phases ahead? Or is it just happening and it's just all in your stride?
Just when I was younger, just all in my stride. Probably when I wasn't quick enough. At least
you had pace to start with.
You have to start playing a couple of plays ahead, mate.
Yeah. So all this is happening. You touched on scholarship. So what's the chat around scholarship, mate? Did he bring your mum and dad in? Are you in the middle of the weekly news and you don't even see it because you don't live here yet and that?
So yeah, after service area, they sort of took us into scholarship, and I think something that 15 of the lads from the Hornets ended up signing at the scholarship, and everyone done pretty well. So it kind of just felt like normal, really. And we used to go and train in P&P Tennis Academy a couple of times a week and pick up on that, and it was good, to be fair, mate. But that was say when I was 13, 14, so we used to spend a couple of nights a week up there. And you learn fast because you're playing obviously with good players and you've got good coaches in the system, so it does help.
Yeah, you never still are you, so imagining. So if your dad was out like my mum, you went sprint training at Sutton on the Monday or something like that after town team.
And it's one of it, you can afford to eat what you want, can't you? Because we was playing at the school, we was playing at service area. Then
you could. I couldn't, mate. But that's what I'm saying. So you're probably Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, twice sometimes on a Saturday if you're playing for school, and a Sunday. It's you're non-stop. What were you like with injuries as a kid, mate?
Pretty lucky, to be honest, mate. I've only ever had one really big injury. It was when I was 9, broke my ankle and leg, but nothing lasting or just probably frustrating being out as a young kid. Broke my thumb and stuff a little bit later on in my career, but nothing. Touch wood, I've never done any sort of ACLs or big shoulder injuries or anything.
Majors, yeah. So, should we talk a little bit about the dark side, or kick and clap as people call it? I played both, mate. Was it ever an option through high school for you? Did you do a little bit?
I had a little dabble in high school, and we done all right, to be honest. None of us really understood the rules, but because we was pretty good with the ball, we used to do well, and we'd go and play against your posh schools like your Lancaster Grammars and your Manchester's schools that were private, really, and we used to beat them, and they didn't like it, to be honest. And I got a couple of sniffs, but I was only really focused on the rugby. One guy got in touch from Leicester Tigers when I was probably 15, 16, but I was just solely focused on playing league at the time, and that was what I enjoyed. So it wasn't anything to pursue really for me.
Yeah, but what is it? Is it just a matter of having a listen, never saying never sort of thing, but not really being keen?
No, to be honest, mate, I probably
no. No, that's fair enough, mate. So, what were your options leaving school then, mate?
So, my mum was adamant that I went to college, so I went to Carmel. But when we was probably just leaving school and going to college, no, just leaving school, we done like a 3-week tour of Australia with St Helens,
Right.
and then once we got back, a couple of us signed first team. So there was me, Adam Swift, Mark Percival, and a lad called Danny Yates he's up from Oldham, and then it was kind of I had the choice of if I could go and train that day, and you've obviously got your likes of your James Robies, your Paul Wellens, your John Wilkins who are training, or you can go and sit and do maths, and you think there's only one real winner here. So I used to have to tell Saints I had a free day and tell my mum that I had a free day, and then I'd go to training, and then you fall that far behind, and you think, oh, they'll just carry on going to training.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And where was that at Cowley? That
I went to Carmel, so not too far. Yeah.
But was training at the Cowley campus then? Yeah.
Cowley, mate. Yeah.
Right. And what were the facilities like there, dude?
Yeah, good, mate. So we had we had a pitch we used, and that was like an all weather. So we pretty much you were training rain, snow, sunshine, because we had like a normal grass pitch, and then a gym facility as well. And then we used to have a little wrestling hall around the corner that we used to use, but which felt probably like 10 times a week when you look at the fellas we used to wrestle against.
Yeah. So when you're signing for Saints, is there interest anywhere else? And what happens in them initial talks? Is it just a given that you were going to go there? Did you actually see what was out there first?
Well, I left Widnes at 14, the first time they went into administration. Just because, obviously, all the money fell out. It was a bit uncertain what was going to happen. I'd spoke to a couple of clubs like Saints and Warrington and stuff. And I was on the fence, really. Obviously, as a young lad, I supported Warrington. But I just thought, like, the sort of Saints production line was a little bit too much to turn down. Like, obviously, players a little bit older than me, you sort of like your Johnny Lomaxes, your Tommy Macks, your Gary Wheelers and stuff. Like, they'd all been there and done it a couple of years older. So, from the outside looking in, when you think back, there's not that many people who've come through at Warrington that have gone on to make it, and probably just like an educated guess, really.
It's not a bad point, though, is it? That's probably something that Warrington have or will look at, won't it? Because that having you, if you're thinking that, Tom, surely there's other kids in that boat, even like yourself, a local lad, that if half of that avenue was open, you'd seriously look at it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but
you're right, aren't you? There's not many that.
Yeah, and sort of at our age, they obviously they were quite good, Warrington, but they did spend a lot of money on bringing lads over from Yorkshire, and obviously like Ben Curry's like a Wigan Golden lad. They signed him, and he's gone on to have a really good career. But there's not many I can think of that actually like grew up in Warrington, done the academy, and went all the way through. Even sort of like Danny Walker and stuff, they've come to Widnes and via Widnes to Warrington, haven't they? Really?
Yeah, no, they have. So what happens? Let's say it's, mate. Is it like an opportunity in pre-season to have a look at you? Do you play reserves, 18s? How is it?
So it was a bit of a strange one, really. Obviously, we was playing academy a couple of years back when I was at academy. It was under 19s, reserves, and dual reg. Yeah. So you'd have months where, like, 1 week I'd play for the academy, 1 week I'd play for the reserves, and then the next week I'd go and play for Rochdale. And it was sort of like dependent on how important the game was, really. So, like, say if the reserves were in a semi-final, you'd play for them. If theirs was a bit of a nothing game, but the academy needed to get for the final, you'd play for them. Or if, ideally, like, you wanted to be playing dual reg every week, really, because you're playing against men then, and obviously that's, you have to think fast. And when I got a little bit older and I could still play academy, but there was lads a little bit younger than me, not to say it was easy, but you wanted to sort of push yourself against blokes who wanted to take your head off instead of kids who you could pick on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No. So what's the chat like when? So would you have been an 18s lad where someone's dropped down, and because you're one of the better lads, did you ever miss a game because of that? And how would you have found it?
I was lucky that sense, really. I was probably one of the ones that dropped down and ended up taking someone else's position or went up and played. So I didn't really have to deal with that side of it, to be honest.
Yeah. And how does the Dual Reds chat come about, mate? Did he offer it yet, or you are doing it?
When I was at Saints, used to sign with a Dual Reds team for the season, and Saints signed with Rochdale at the time, and there's a guy called Ian Talbot who's up at Saints now, and he was involved with Saints, and he went on to be head coach at Rochdale for a couple of seasons. So it was just like, oh, Dom, this week we want you to play 9 for Rochdale, and to be honest, you dove at the chance, you got a bit of extra win pay if you won. You're playing against men, and it was tough, mate. It was in the championship, and then you'd get a couple of cup games and stuff, so it was good.
Yeah. And just before we carry on with your career, when did what you do now start influencing your game? Was you always keen on it, or?
No, so probably when I was 19, maybe 18, 19, and I wasn't really going to college, I just probably thought I need to do something as a little bit of a fallback. Obviously, rugby's a great career if you make it playing for Saints, Wigan, Leeds, Warrington every week, but it's not so much a great career if you play for Dewsbury every week, or if you're part-time, you're not going to be able to support a full lifestyle on the one wage, you know what I mean? So I just thought, well, if I do something now that I enjoy, I've always got that to fall back on then.
Right. And why the gym work and the PT and?
I just enjoyed it.
Right.
We had a conditioner called Matt Daniels at Saints who was really good with us. I just sort of enjoyed being in the gym, and when I left Saints, obviously went up to Barrow, and then at the end of that season was probably the first time I got a proper job, and then that was what I worked on at the production line in Jag for a couple of months before I went over to Australia, and that was what proper solidified the fact that I really liked working in the gym. You go in your shorts every day, you have a good laugh, and just you don't have to ask to go for a piss and that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's mad you've said that, innit? You don't have to ask to go for a piss. Yeah, and playing rugby, it's bizarre because I never played the levels you lads played, but a proper job, whacking each other isn't a proper job.
Yeah, and to be honest,
it's bizarre.
We had some tough days at Saints, don't get me wrong, where we'd go in, we'd wrestle, and then we'd have field, then we'd have gym, then we'd have field, and it was tough, but at the end of the day you was getting paid to stay fit and do something you enjoy, so it wasn't that bad. And you're 17, getting paid a decent wage, you can buy a car and go on your PlayStation, on your PlayStation when you go home, and you haven't really got to think, you just know you're getting paid, you rock up at training, it's the life really, like a professional. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So let's chat a little bit about Dual Reds. So did you only do it at Rochdale, mate?
So yeah, when I was at Saints, it was just with Rochdale. So I went there for maybe 5-something games, 6 games, something like that. Might have been more than that.
Was it a bit of an eye opener as well, was it? And how did the lads react to you? Because a lot of lads I've spoken to with Dual Reds, Dom, they just do captains run game day. So how was it for you?
That was what we done really. You'd train at Saints all week, and then you'd train with Rochdale on the Friday and play on the Sunday. Obviously, if they knew a little bit earlier in the week, you might train on the Thursday and the Friday, but it wasn't always a dead set. There was quite a couple of times, throughout my time at Saints, where it was if Wellens can't play this week, you're in, so you'd be 18th man, and it'd be so I need you to do captain's run in the morning, captain's run on Friday night, and then we'll see at the game on Saturday, and then he'd pull through and you'd have to play for Rochdale and stuff, but you can't really sit Paul Wellens out, can you, for some young lad from Widnes?
So yeah, did anyone, I know you say it was only we'll say a handful of games because you're not 100% sure, but was anyone ever funny about the fact you could just drop in, drop out?
No. I think at the time everyone sort of knew the score, so there might have been 5 lads from Saints who went over every week, and to be fair, at the time it was the same sort of 5 lads who went, so it kind of wasn't. It was it suited both teams really. They needed a 9. Carl Forster used to come over a couple of times. Lee Gaskell come and played with us and stuff, and it was players they needed as much as it wasn't kind of just us going in and muscling our way in. They they might have had a couple of injuries or whatnot, so it sort of like scratched each other's back, really.
Yeah. Sorry, that's not how I was trying to put it across. It's just you don't know how other lads to take it.
That does happen, to be honest. I've seen the flip side of that being in the championship side, and we've dual reg with, say, Hull KR and lads spit the dummy out and stuff. So I'm just talking but I've seen it both sides then.
Yeah. And when you're part-time, semi-pro, whatever people want to label it, Dom, how many times a week would you train?
So when I first started up at Dewsbury, we trained Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we'd play on a Sunday.
Right.
And then as I got a little bit older in my career, I managed to negotiate training twice a week. So I used to do Wednesday, Friday, and play on a Sunday. But a Monday, Tuesday session was a bit of video and stuff. And I said, listen, like, it's taken me this much time. And obviously, as I got a bit older, my main passion and stuff is obviously the gym. So I said, I can't afford to be leaving the gym of an evening when it's busy, and I want to be there to come and go in the pool in Dewsbury. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of got a bit of a deal going with the coach and the chairman that was all right. A few lads weren't too happy, but they should have negotiated it first.
Yeah, that's it, mate. It's not your fault you got brain cells, is it? So all I was getting at there really is, if a dual reg lad is only missing one session, say you're going to do a Thursday and the Friday, can't really frown upon it, can they? Like, no. Without being rude, because some of them lads might miss one or two, might they?
Yeah. You do see it in anything below the Super League, mate. Lads have work commitments, and if one day they get stuck on a job or they have to work away and stuff, it is just part and parcel of the job. I've worked with Rob Warrington. He was like unavailable some weekends because he had to work and he couldn't book them off, and it wasn't his fault. That was just his main source of income, and rugby was just sort of it was a paid hobby, but it wasn't a means to an end. He couldn't support his family on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So is the Rochdale thing a bit of a some lads might have seen it as a kick in the face or a make or break. It's actually opened your eyes to men's rugby and thought I can go out with this, on it.
That's the first time you properly start getting whacked and stuff, really. I think I must have played I played my first Super League game at 75 kilos, and you think there's fellas a bit heavier in the champ than 75 kilos because you don't have to be quite as quick. So there might have been lads 125 kilos that I think I'm going to run over him. So it makes you a bit better, a bit quicker. Yeah.
So when the stint at Barrow comes along, is that a permanent departure from Saints then, mate?
Yeah. When I went through the first team at Saints, it was sort of decided between me, Nathan Brown, Mike Rush, Neil Kilshaw, Derek Trainer, that we'd sort of transition into a 9. At the time, Kieran Cunningham was the assistant coach, so I spent an awful lot of time with Kieran Cunningham and James Roby, sort of like after training, before a million spin passes off your left hand, million spin passes off your right. But obviously, it's what you've got to do, isn't it? Like they're all the things that sort of go unnoticed, but that's what you have to do. And in my head, probably naively, I thought, when I looked at the squad, I thought there's only really James Roby here in front of me. Like, have a good couple of years, he'll retire, and like, this could be my spot. Obviously, he's a bit like Benjamin Button. He's still going, and I'm done already. So
only through choice, I imagine, mate. But what two of the best you can learn from as well, mate.
Yeah, really good. So, but obviously, with that, they sort of like they expect the best then as well. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah. Do you feel that as well?
Yeah, but not in a good way, really.
Yeah.
It was probably like the first time when we started training properly, like at hooker, I'd ever felt like maybe a little bit of pressure. It was a season where Wilkin and Lomax played in the halves all year. And like normally, like in the academy, the halfback might stand 10 metres away, and you think, yeah, I'll pass it to him easy. But Wilkin would stand 20 metres away because it it had cut out A, B, and C defender. And if you didn't put it in front of him on his outside badge so he could run onto it, he'd shout at you. And he'd only shout at you because it was worse for the winger then. Because if it went behind him, it took a second off him, and his next one was a second. But I suppose that's why it makes you try a little bit harder, and you think, fuck, I'll have to make sure this pass is all right.
Yeah. So just for viewers and listeners, mate, when we talk ABC, we talk defender 1, 2, 3 from the ruck, don't we? Yeah, that's what you're trying to make work harder, aren't you, mate?
The wider he stood, the harder they had to work, which it was like an extra man on the edge. So he wanted everything perfect, which give him more time, and obviously ultimately put the winger in. It's a case of scoring or not scoring, really.
Yeah, and when you talk about them seconds, a club like Saints, it matters.
Oh, ridiculous! So much. And when I played me debut, I didn't realise just how quick the difference was between even academy to reserves to playing at like Rochdale and then playing at Saints. It's very, very different. Like you get more time on the ball playing in the Championship. Everyone might have been to work that week for 40 hours laying bricks or climbing up roofs and stuff, whereas like obviously the lads at Saints train hard, but they get time to play golf and get massages a couple of times a week and stuff. So
recover, mate. That's it. Yeah. So, where was your debut? Who was your debut?
It was on my 19th birthday. We played against Rochdale at home, and it was a Friday night kickoff. And do you know when it snows and you can tell through the curtains it snowed?
Yeah.
And I looked at the curtain and I thought, oh God, get me debut here, and it snowed. So I looked out the curtain and I thought, it's off. It's got to be off. But it was on. It should never have been on. The pitch was white. You couldn't see the lines, but it was good. I enjoyed it anyway.
Yeah, no, good man. So how many games would you say you played in first team, or you in and around? And what were the seniors like with you, mate? Did anyone particularly put their arm around you and help you out? Or?
So I played one Super League game, played many friendlies, and I was 18th man an awful amount of times. Yeah. It was like, if Helens doesn't pull through today, you'll play, and you'd play, and if Rugby doesn't, you'd play. But obviously, Rugby at 80% fit, you're picking, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? He's playing, and obviously it was at the time a lot of painkilling jabs were knocking about, so you'd play, rest up through the week and play. So it was good to be around. All the lads were pretty good, to be honest. Not all of them were pretty down to earth. None of them were arrogant. They were all helpful if you asked for help and stuff. They all liked the beer. They were happy to invite you out for a beer, even though you're a young kid. It was good.
Yeah. And was you someone that was ever afraid of asking for help or out, Dom? Would you have openly said, "Can you do a bit of extra here?" Or
yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah. It wasn't really extras you had to do them, mate. So it was an unoptional extra. So you just got stuck in, and it was good. Like Cunningham took a lot of time out with me, and he'd be like, right, come on, we'll do this after training and stuff. So that obviously helped as well.
Yeah. And being in that sort of environment, has that set the tone for your career on and off the pitch? Because I know lads that go your gym, which we'll talk about later, and they say it's buzzing. They're always happy. I know social media can paint a false image, but I don't think you can blag the happiness as often and as regular as your clients or fellow coaches are outbringed, can it? So
no. So to be honest, like when I've stopped playing, the only thing you miss, obviously, being in and around the lads, and the gym environment is very similar. Because especially with, like, we do like group classes and stuff at the gym, you're in and around your mates, and it's hard work, but you have a laugh. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
sort of replicates a little bit of being around the lads, but without getting injured and knocking it into each other. So
the nice bit.
Yeah, the nice bit.
Right. So what's the chat like when it comes to walking away and standing on your own 2 feet now and establishing yourself, right?
So yeah, I could have stayed really, but I was knocking on 9. I was 19, knocking on 20, and I just wanted to be playing every week really. So I'd have either I'd have had to take a low ball offer from them, or I thought, I got a couple of offers and I thought, do you know what, this Barrow one's like quite appealing. They were in the Championship. Sorry, mate, that went blank then. They were in the Championship, and I spoke to Muzzer, he's coach of at Workington now, and he was like, listen, I need a standoff. And I thought, I've played standoff for a few years, but it's not bad to get jersey number 6 in your first year in the Champ, so we'll have a go. And it was good, mate. So that was the first time I'd obviously travelled, really. Saints is only around the corner. The first time I'd travelled, and we used to fly up the M6. There was 5 of us at the time. There was like Kurt Aggerty, Ian Moore, and then a couple of other lads. So we used to fly up and down the M6. They all had decent cars. I had a Corsa that 1.2, and it used to rattle with all 5 of us.
Class.
It got us, right? But
that's it.
So
who wrapped you, Dom?
Who was my agent?
Yeah.
My first one was Ian Sibbett.
Right.
So
he's an ex-player, so he knows the crack on the helps it out and that. Yeah.
He got me up there, and then sort of I don't know if you remember, but there was 14 teams in the Championship, and 5 got relegated. So the top 9 stayed up. So sort of we had an all right year. The first game of the season we played against Lee at home, and they beat us 50-0. And Ryan Braley scored 5, and Liam Kay scored 5. And I was stood under the sticks thinking, what have I done? What have I done? Because it was probably, to be honest with you, the first time I ever started getting beat in my career as well. Obviously, being at Saints Academy, and when we had a really good side at Widnes, we didn't really lose. So to then be stood under the sticks thinking, what have I done here? Like,
that's a good point, that though, Dom, innit?
At first, yeah. I hated it. I still hate it. I still hate losing now, but it was just like the manner in which we lost. Like, we didn't even get a chance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was a young side. Like, years before, Barrow had spent too much money on maybe has-beens, and they went for a sort of a different approach of like a lot of youth, and they took a lot of like inexperienced lads from like Cumbria, and it didn't pay off. We got relegated, but that was the end of that one. But
no, well, listen, if they don't try, they don't know. They're here exposed to use as well, thankfully.
To be honest, it's a like really well run club up there. Still like talk to the fans like last season when they come up, and a couple of the lads are still the same and stuff. It ended a little bit earlier than I would have liked. Bobby Golden used to coach me when I was young, growing up, because I used to play a year up with young Bobby and Adam Lawton and stuff like that. So me and him used to get on like a house on fire when he was my coach. But when he was my half-back partner and my coach, we didn't get on so much. It's all sorted now. That like, we kissed and made up, but it didn't work.
Right, and when that sort of situation, have you been in that situation again where you've had a player coach?
Only for a couple of games, mate. Our coach got sacked at Dewsbury last year, and Sykesy took over for a couple of games.
Okay. And how is that? It must be a different atmosphere.
So when it was with Bobby, Muzz got sacked and Bobby come in, and he played a couple of games, and it was hard because at the time I was a young lad, and he's a dominant bloke, Bobby. If he wanted the ball, the hooker giving the ball, and then I was like, I want the ball. Do you know what I mean? So and then we sort of that was tough, but that was probably just because I was a younger player. When Sykesy took over as player coach, because there was more of a senior bloke, he'd say, right, what do you reckon about this week? And it was sort of like I had more of a say in it then, so I enjoyed that a little bit more.
Yeah. And like you said, that's come with experience, Dom, hasn't it? Like how you see the game and how it's unfolding, and looking up before looking down, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So, and me and Sykesy, obviously, when I first signed at Dewsbury, Sykesy had signed at Dewsbury as well, so we've been there for like quite a few years together and got on and stuff, so that helped.
Yeah. I've no doubt. So if it's difficult to say, you don't want to, that's fine. But that premature ending at Barrow, mate, what door opened on the back of that, and what was that ending? Was it a mutual thing, or?
Yeah, we just sort of had our disagreements, and they were mathematically relegated. And I just was thinking, I'm not coming up and down the M6 when we're not getting on. And it was one of the, and Anthony Murray, who got sacked from Barrow, had gone to take over at Wales, and they needed a couple of wins to stay up when 5 got relegated. And we did get a couple of wins, but the other teams above us got a couple of wins as well. So I don't know if it's sort of record that getting relegated twice in 1 year, but I've done it.
And keep it as well, isn't it? So, and do you know what, mate? It's a silly question, really, because you've done well in your career. But is memorabilia something you keep, or?
I've got a playing shirt from every club I've been at. Yeah, so yeah. I've not got any of them. I've got one frame from when we won that under 11s National Cup final at high school. We played at Twickenham before a Challenge Cup final. I got that one done. And I've got the others in a box in the loft. I'm not really that sentimental. I haven't done anything with them. Still got them, but I've not done anything with them.
So Lauren's one.
Yeah. I did mention putting them in the bar, but I got barked at, so they're still in the loft.
Yeah, well, the lads would only recommend anyway. I've seen the state of them in your bar, mate. They enjoy it, to say the least. Yeah,
just about.
So what door opened on the back of that, mate, after your short stint at the Crusaders then?
So it was September we finished, and I didn't use an agent to go from Barrow to North Wales, just with Muzz sorting both of them out.
Yeah.
So I spoke with Dave Pete, and he got a couple of offers for me, and I was only 20 at the time, and he said, I've got a few good offers from you in Australia, and a couple of them were in the middle of Australia, and I'd literally go on Google and think, it's too far from the beach, that one. So
Dave would have thought that as well, though. He's coached us, Dave.
So in the end, I was like, do you know what? I got an opportunity to go and play in the Queensland Cup, which anyone who doesn't know is the championship basically over here. So when I played for the Tweedhead Seagulls, and luckily when I looked on Google Maps, they were based not far from Gold Coast. So you're right on the beach. You're half an hour from the Gold Coast. You're only an hour from Brisbane. It wasn't bad at all. So
sounds a nightmare.
Yeah, it was terrible. me and Lauren packed up at 20 and went over there for a year, so that was good.
Right.
We didn't have any commitments really. So at 20, if we was going to do it, it was the best time to go and do it, rather than say house or kids and you think we should have done it. So we had to go, and why not?
So Lauren's been on the ride with you from a young age then, mate, yeah?
Yeah, mate, yeah. We got together when we was 18, so almost 11 years now. She's had to put up with rugby and whatnot, so...
Yeah, no wonder they didn't know.
No.
So, fair play to her, mate, because not only for you, but for her, it's a big commitment. So, what's involved logistically in doing all this? Did a club put the flights on for you? Do you have to do it?
The club put the flights on, and I didn't... When we finished playing rugby in September, we didn't go over till the January, so we could just sort of spend Christmas at home. I just done a lot of running by myself and done like a pre-season by myself, and when I went over, I just joined up with the lads in January. But it was good. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved it, and I'm glad we did it. Like I didn't really have a bad word to say about it, to be honest. It was a shock to the system. Like it's a lot harder, the Q Cup, than the Championship was. It was like we played Papua New Guinea Hunters one weekend, and you got off the plane and it was 95% humidity and you were sweating. You think, I can't play rugby in this.
But what an experience for a young lad, mate.
Yeah, good. And that's one of them. Rugby took me to France. It took me to Toronto. It took me to Australia. So it's something that like I'll always be fond of. And me and Lauren, sort of the 3 weeks we had in Australia, we went to Sydney and we went up to one of my mates, Alex Clare, played up in Cairns, so we went up there to see him and stuff. So we sort of used that for a bit of travelling as well.
Well, why not, mate? Innit? Like use that for what it's using you for, basically, isn't it? Enjoy yourselves. So when you're over there, what was the initial plan? Was it season by season, or was you always going to come on?
signed a year contract. I could have stayed for 2, but it was obviously we went over at 20. Me and Lauren had our 21st over there, and we sort of just we didn't do the farm work you had to do. So you do something like 3 months farm work or 100 hours, whatever comes first, and we didn't do it. We used to go to the beach and a barbecue and a few beers instead. So
you should have just took a litter picker and a bag and acted like you were doing something. Right. So on the back end of that, is everything on nice terms?
Oh yeah, really good terms, mate. Yeah. So we've still got mates from the club we go meet up with now. We met one in Bali a couple of years ago and stuff. Like, everyone at the club was great. We nothing. It was all amicable. We just sort of, it was time to come home, really.
Yeah. Right. And who facilitates the move to Dewsbury? Who else was interested?
So I had a couple of teams interested, but Dave Pete put me in touch with Glenn Morrison, who was the coach at Dewsbury at the time, and I knew a couple of the lads up there already, like Shane Grady and Scott Hale and a few of the others. And I thought, rang Shane, spoke to Shane, and he said it was all right. So I thought, do you know what, I'll give it a whirl. And then that pretty much found me home then, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you did. You really established yourself there, mate, didn't you? And you settled.
It was a good club, and it was sort of like, it was the first time I'd actually really got properly settled, because obviously we mentioned before, like 1 week I play reserves, 1 week I play first team, then you go to Rochdale, and I didn't mind it, but it was the first time I sort of, you run the same systems with the same players week in, week out, so it was nice, really.
Yeah. And is that the situation where you're in, where comfort brings the best out of you now? You know where you're going to be, you know. You tend to keep the same spine, Dom, don't you? So not necessarily 1, 9, 13, 6 and 7, but you keep a core group of players.
Yeah, definitely. So it was a good consistency. That was when I've probably played my best rugby over the years, really. Like, just enjoying it, like, not just chilled out, just get some consistency. And obviously competition's good in rugby, but you were sort of like, you knew you was playing every week, and you wasn't thinking, I might get in this week, I might not. It was kind of like, yeah, I'm in, and we'll just crack on.
Yeah. And what license was you given? Was you given a free roll sort of thing?
It depends what coach you had.
Right. Look at that, get in there then.
Yeah. So a couple of the coaches were fine. They sort of just let us do what we wanted to do. We went over to Toronto once with like 16 lads, because a few of them had criminal records and a few of them couldn't get the time off work. So we went over with 16, and we had Neil Kelly, and he just said, do you know what, lads, do what you want. So we had a few beers on the plane there. We ended up in a nightclub the night before a game, and we give Toronto a good game, but we was chipping over the top on the third tackle, and it was a laugh.
Yeah.
It was a stag do, basically, without a wedding.
Yeah, do you know what, mate? Without being rude, it was probably the closest thing you could get to playing with them lads that you spoke about from your old Hornets team, without it being them.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
And it was just a laugh. Like, you couldn't believe you was getting paid to do it, really. When they have a dig today, lads, and you thought, do you know what? Go on, then, we will do.
I imagine that's probably one of your most enjoyable games as well. Like, who doesn't want to play with a free license, innit?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So before we kick on with everything else, has the amateur scene never interested you?
In between coming from Dewsbury to play, just before I went to Australia, I had a couple of games up the Birch with the lads, and I think I played twice, and I did enjoy it, to be honest. But then I'd stopped playing because I thought, if I get injured and have signed to go to Oz now, I won't forgive myself. So I didn't play. Played one game up at the Hornets a couple of years back, and I dislocated my shoulder. And it was a night we played in Cumbria. Lauren was on holiday, and I come home, and I had to say to Lauren's mum, "You'll have to take my jumper off for me." I said, "I can't do it." I thought, the first game I've done here, and I got injured. But no,
you got it for it as well, didn't you?
The main reason I went back playing rugby after COVID was because I was going up watching the lads on a Saturday, thinking, I either play for these or have another dig at it. So I thought, I'll go and have a dig at it and see what comes. Right.
No, mate, I can't blame you if you're fit and like you said, you're seeing your mates do it. If you can get paid, go and get paid, innit?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Without being rude, mate. So What are your fondest memories of your time at Dewsbury, other than the Toronto game and enjoying yourselves?
We had some good wins, really, mate. So we beat Toulouse a couple of times, and it was, to be honest, mate, like it was your away trips, your Toulouses, your Torontos. You go into London and you stay over for the night with the lads after it, and a lot of it for me, like it was. I am competitive. I like playing the rugby, but it's a lot of the stuff that comes alongside it as well. So
yeah.
You know, like you're like, right, come on, we'll go to Leeds and we'll do the Otley run, and I don't even mind hill sessions and stuff, mate. So it's all the bits that come alongside you actually playing. Because I don't know what our win percentage was like over the years at Dewsbury. We had some really good wins and we had some really bad losses. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
overall, the things you remember is like your good times, isn't it? So you sort of roll with them.
And it's like I've said in the past to people, mate, if you're in them tough, sticky situations, you're behind your sticks, you concede in a few. It's them Otley runs, it's them Toronto trips, they pull you through, innit?
And then we beat Widnes a couple of times. That was nice. That was a nice.
So was you building Transfit before COVID, and was it starting to come along nice, was it?
Yeah, so we've had Transfit 6 years now. So we started Transfit while I was at Dewsbury. Transfit done really well. Obviously, COVID closed it, and then over COVID, I just I thought I like this sort of free time. So I'd gone from working in the gym 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday, going to work morning and night, going to training on the other nights and playing on a Sunday. And I'd been just doing 7 days a year, all year round, obviously on like a free week at rugby. And COVID, I got a chance to sort of sit back and be like, what am I doing? Like, why am I working every single day? So at first, it comes to like, I'd signed again for the year after COVID, and I rang the coach and said, listen, I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
So it sort of didn't end up going back in the end after COVID. And then that was when I started watching the lads and think, do you know what, go on, I'll
have a go.
Oh, yeah.
So you've just basically reevaluated life, mate, haven't you? You've been on this cycle, like you said, 7 days a week for 52 weeks a year, and it's time that you went on and enjoyed yourselves, because she's along for the ride as well, isn't she?
And we missed, obviously everyone who plays rugby does, and that's a sacrifice. We was 26 maybe, and it was like we'd missed weddings and summer holidays, because obviously the rugby league season runs straight through the summer, so we tend to go away October, November, and it's not obviously it's a good time of year to go away. You're grateful for that, but sometimes in the summer when the lads were going away, you'd think, I wouldn't have minded going there, or there's a christening on a Sunday that you have to rush back from, and you get there when everyone's already had 10 pints, and just thought, do you know what, like, as much as I'm grateful for rugby, it's allowed me to do things like I could have only dreamed of as a kid. Like, my main focus going forward was like business and family, really, because working all the time and going to rugby and stuff, you don't tend to see anyone.
And or if you do, it's a real effort both sides, isn't it, mate?
My work's unsociable hours, so I work sort of like 5:30 till 11 in the morning, then maybe like 4 till 9 of an evening. So when everyone else is at work, you're at home, and vice versa. So it's tough. Yeah.
And where did the concept of Transfit come for you? Who come up with it? Where did the name come from? And
we don't actually know. When I started the gym first, and Lauren trained, she got herself in really good shape, and it was sort of something we spoke about because of the unsociable hours, that she should try and do her qualifications and stuff. And she was working in recruitment at the time, and she said, I'll give it 12 months and do both. And within a month, she just sort of took off, and she started picking up like a lot of ladies and women, and she was full. So it suits us down to a T, because then we work the same hours now, and if we want to do anything in the day, or we take the weekends off and stuff, so it suits us like far better than it would if she was still working in 9 to 5.
Yeah. So the new premises, mate, do you want to hit us with it and tell people your handles and that, in case they want to get involved and stuff, if they don't already?
The main reason why, obviously, I haven't got time to be playing rugby at the moment is down to we're expanding in the gym. So our unit at the moment is 2,000 square foot, and we've just took on a unit that's 18,000 square foot. So a bit of a jump, and I didn't think it'd be the right time in my life to be spending 3 nights a week at training and playing on a Sunday when I could be putting my effort into something that's probably going to last me for the next 40 years, hopefully, instead of the next 4 years. So it was an educated decision, really.
Yeah. And again, tell people where they can find you and what you're about.
We will be the largest independent gym in Widnes. You can find us Instagram. It's at Transfit Widnes, and Facebook's the same, just Transfit Widnes. We run classes. We do cardio, weights. We do spin. We do yoga. We're going to do everything. We've already got 8 PTs, and we've just hired 4 more. So we're pretty much going to have everything locked down, mate. So it's the best gym in the town.
It certainly looks like you're on course too, mate. And we mentioned it off camera before. It's nothing untoward, but going into them premises, people seeing what you and Lauren are doing, because you're everywhere, aren't you? And it only attracts the best coaches, nutritionists. You're going to get people wanting to be involved, mate, because you're growing, aren't you? And that's what people are going to see, aren't they?
So obviously, from like a little idea we had, like at the end, probably the middle of last season in the summer, it's obviously gone quite quick, and we was thinking, will it work, won't it? And we thought, do you know what, it will. And then even we've been a bit took back by how many sign-ups we've had and the interest we've had to work here. So it speaks volumes, really. Yeah.
Right, so if you don't mind, mate, we'll go back to the career then.
Yeah,
so you do come back home.
Yeah.
You have a spell. How does that come about, and what was the chat around that?
So I used to, when I was at Saints, Kieran Pertill was there as well, and I spoke with Perts, and he was interested in getting me down at Widnes, and it was a bit of a mixed bag, really. So again, when I got there, he was in financial difficulty, so it was a bit of a pain, really. I could train, but I couldn't register and I couldn't play. But I was allowed to play in a couple of pre-season friendlies, but I couldn't play in the league. So I found myself just training, couldn't play, just training, couldn't play. And it was full time. So I was going in work, finishing in the gym early to go to training, to know that I couldn't play. And I just wasn't fully invested because I knew I couldn't play. And then when it got round to playing, I'd missed maybe like 8 games and then they already had like an established side, and I got in, I got some games, but it was taking the enjoyment out of work and stuff. So I sat down with Perts and said, listen, mate, like obviously Transfit's what I want to do full time. Rugby, I enjoy it, but it's not, there's lads there that'll give you the left leg for rugby, and that's not what I'm willing to do. Do you know what I mean? So I was honest with him. He understood where I was coming from. And we sort of just parted ways. So, and then I wasn't playing, and Glenn Morrison gave me a call, and he just started being head of director at Cleveland, in the North American League that was about to kick off. And he said, listen, mate, I've got a bit of an opportunity if you fancy it. He said, we've got a 6 to 8 week competition. He said, it's 6 weeks if we don't get to the semi-final and the final, and it's 8 weeks if we win it. So do you fancy coming over? It was we'll do your flights, we'll do your hotel, We'll get you a little job if you need to. So I thought, do you know what? I can sort work for 6 weeks. Do you know what I mean? But COVID cancelled that one, and it was a bit of a non-starter. But the conditioner, Adam Mitchell up at Dewsbury, had heard wind that I was up for going back up to somewhere. So he told the coach at Dewsbury, and I went back up there.
Right. So to go back home, mate, did rugby union never cross you? Because Petey's involved in both codes, isn't he? And no. Marty used to share a car with you. He was under Petey, wasn't he? And
no, it never, mate. I just enjoyed. I still don't fully understand union, mate. Like I know I've got a rough idea, but it just wasn't something that really interested me to have a go at. Do you know what I mean? Maybe in another life I'd on that route, but I think I'd just play golf now in another life, mate, to be honest with you.
See the world on wedge.
Yeah.
So was it like going back home returning to Dewsbury, mate?
Yeah, it was good. Obviously, I knew the lads at Widnes. I'd played with Jack and Gilly and whatnot and stuff. But when I went back to Dewsbury, obviously that's where I'd spent like the last portion of my life. Do you know what I mean? So nothing really changed. It was still the same fans, still the same setup. Do you know what I mean? So it was good. It was straight back in really, and that was where I negotiated me 2 nights a week instead of me 3.
Clever, man. So you recently retired, aren't you? Like, retired.
Yeah, so I've just finished this season. Finished last season. I've seen all the lads going back to pre-season this year, and they've all laughed at me and said I'll be back because I do like pre-season. I'm competitive, and if we have a bleep test, I'll try and win it and whatnot. But I have missed one pre-season before, so I missed one, and it was the COVID one when I said I'm not going back. So they thought that was a bit of a good manoeuvre to miss the winter and rock back up for the season, but no, it's not this time, mate. I have got a lot on my hands. I've had a couple of phone calls and a bit of bribing trying to go on, but it's not, nothing's pulling me just yet.
And is it a nice thing to be able to do it because you want to do it?
Yeah, mate, it's good. Yeah. So obviously, I'd say the quality of the rugby at the moment at the top end is probably higher than it has been, but at the bottom in the champ and whatnot, it's probably not as high as it has been. Like in years gone by, you couldn't really half-arse it. If you wanted to play, you had to be very invested and play. Whereas like now, you do get lads who pick it up and drop it, or like sometimes the clubs need the lads more. And in the past, it's never been like that. But yeah. I think obviously that's across every level. Like amateurs struggles at the moment, doesn't it? And I think obviously if it's happening at amateur, it's happening at semi-pro, and it's literally because there's not enough money in the game and people are getting injured and they can't work on the Monday and stuff. So people are reevaluating, is it worth breaking your leg playing on a Saturday? And do you know what I mean? Like, not getting, you're paying subs for the privilege. So
I was going to say that, to be fair, you just touched on it then about the money not being great. You probably have to have your own insurance as well.
Yeah, so you have to have your own insurance. And don't get me wrong, like I've picked up a good amount of money over the years off rugby, but it's not something that you can retire on or. No.
And you've given back, Dom. It's not, you've not just collected.
No, definitely. Yeah. It's always been nice. Like it's a bit of money that you put away for your holidays or your car or pay off your mortgage and whatnot, and it's good. Like that's what all the lads do, but it's not something you can think I can play on my PlayStation and sit at golf and, do you know what I mean? Just pick that up. Where ultimately, like to make a full career out of it, you've got to be Percy's level, you know, like starting week in, week out and getting picked for England and whatnot, which fair play, like you've got to be good enough to do it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, mate. So a couple of daft questions for you, because we've heard about your empire, and when people get on the socials and see what you're doing, they'll understand it's very much going to be an empire. It's going to be the place to be gym-wise, isn't it? So any pre-match superstitions?
I've never wore, since I was a kid, I've never wore studded boots. I've always worn moldies. I just haven't ever liked the feel of them.
That's fair enough.
And that was it, really. The only one that's probably crept in over the past couple of years, I don't know if you've seen Joe Philbin's business grips.
Yeah.
So I started wearing them, and then you cut your socks, wear them, and they do help. But once you start playing in them, then, and if you forgot them, you was like, oh no, I forgot my socks.
You got half a sock on.
Yeah, you'd played 400 games across your life with normal socks, and you'd played 20 with these grip socks, and you was thinking, I'm not going to be able to do it. But obviously, you manage.
So, your toughest player you've played with and against, remembering, I say to everybody, mate, definition of tough is very different.
Yeah, well, I had a good think about this, mate, and I come down to it, and I probably thought Gary Wheeler's the toughest player I've ever played with. Sorry, yeah. From just the amount of adversity he's managed to come back from. Do you know what I mean? Like, not many blokes would be mentally tough enough to come back from what he has.
Yeah, he's a good lad as well. I've had Gaz on. He's a good lad.
Yeah, he's a good lad, and he's a great player, mate, as well. But he's obviously brought him up with injury. But I probably would say like he's the toughest one I've played with, because I've seen him do Achilles and hamstrings and shoulders, and he comes back, goes again, comes back, goes again. And obviously he's played at Saints, he's played at Warrington and stuff, and it shows you how good of a player he is.
Yeah.
So I have to say him, mate, to be honest.
Right. So your favourite away ground? And what type of ground do you prefer, the newer ones or the older ones?
Sorry, mate, I'll just touch on toughest ones I've played against.
Sorry.
So growing up, I'd probably say it was either Don Manfredi or John Bateman. They were tough in a league of their own. Like that, you'd play against them, and it was literally you'd have your 13 lads, and it was one of them, and they still made it tough for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, they carried their team, and they were tough. In the years in the Championship, I'd have to say Dane Manning. He's like tackling a bag of spanners, and he tries 110% all the time. And I'd say we played Wigan in the Challenge Cup once, and you couldn't get close to Sean O'Loughlin.
Yeah.
Sometimes you used to watch him on the telly, and obviously he's good, but you're underrated exactly how much he could do, and he did until you played against him. He could throw 30-yard cut passes, he could kick, and he'd whack you, and you think there's no fun in there. Funny.
And what people might not realise, just going back to the likes of Dane and that, is sometimes, well, most of the time, a lot of you guys are certainly good enough for the elite level. Just the money doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so I played with Liam Harrison up at Barrow, mate, and he was obviously an awesome player, and his brother Ben was playing at Warrington at the time, and he got numerous offers to go and sign at Warrington and Super League clubs, but ultimately, like, he was a quantity surveyor and he was earning a good wage at Barrow. What Warrington and the other clubs could offer him wasn't even matching, say, half of that, and you think, I'm not going to take this off my family's table for that. Do you know what I mean? When he's definitely that's secured for him at the moment, so it's tough.
And how much did he want you if that's what it's going to, you know what I mean? Without being rude, what, isn't it?
Yeah. And they say, right, we want you to sign a 1-year deal. If you do well, we'll give you a better one. It's not a lot of security, is it? So
no, mate, no. So yeah, sorry, your favourite away ground, and what type of ground do you prefer, the old-fashioned ones or the newer ones?
Oh, definitely the newer ones, mate. I loved going to Toronto and to lose with the atmosphere, and it was good. I didn't really enjoy going to your Workingtons and your Whitehavens, where there was a little changing room and a shower that dribbled, and we played a pre-season friendly at Whitebank in Oldham once, and we had to get changed in a porter cabin after the game, and it was pitch black, raining, mud. Everyone's kit was the same colour. You didn't know who was on whose team, and you were thinking, "How am I getting a shower in this porter cabin?" Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't mind the new ones like York and stuff that have just been done up, and you get a nice shower and stuff.
No, good stuff, mate, in it. But so if you're out with the lads, or you're in your bar, mate, and they've had a few, and somehow the mic's in your hand, what are you giving us? It's
got to be Sweet Caroline, hasn't it? You definitely need a couple of beers down me first, but yeah, it's got to be Sweet Caroline.
And do you shuffle, or are you someone that just blasts it out?
Oh, I'll pass you the mic back and everything, so I'll get the crowd to boom, boom, boom. So I'm going, mate.
Yeah. Right, so if you're willing to, dude, you're 1 to 13.
Right, so I'd have to say Wellens at fullback. A lot of this comes from obviously playing at Saints, but a couple of people have made the way in. Makinson on the wing.
Yeah.
Wheeler and Percy in the centres.
Right, so Gaz and Percy.
Yeah. Francis Melly was on the wing.
Yeah.
George Williams and Johnny Lomax were in the halves.
George Williams. So when you look at a player, what do you want from him?
It depends. Like, I think for them, obviously George and Johnny, they're both halfbacks. They're both smart, but they're both tough as well. Like, they're both willing to ride a tackle and take a carry, and they defend well above the weight and stuff. And so yeah, probably just getting stuck in a bit, really. Yeah,
because they will complement each other. Johnny looks very. Don't get me wrong, he's got the mercurial thing in his pocket, but he looks like he'll play structure really well. Yeah, where George is very much off the cuff, isn't he? And
George was the year below me growing up, but he was good enough. He used to get picked in our England side the year above, and he's always been good. He's always been tough. So just like the way he plays, really.
Yeah. So you're packed, mate.
Well, yeah. So pack one writes itself, really. Walmsley and Luke Thompson front rows.
Yeah.
I was going to say myself, but I've had to put Roby at 9.
I'd have put me, captain, kicker, coach.
I run the water for this one.
Yeah, not bad though, is it?
No. And then Thea Soliola I'd have put in the back row. When I made my debut, he done most of my defending, so he'd have to make his way in there. We kept kicking off to Daryl Griffin, and he was making a beeline. He was running in any direction to try and find me. So a couple of times, Sia found his way in front of me and levered him. So I thought, "You've made your way in, mate.
You're my man, Sia."
Yeah. And then the other back row would probably go John Wilkin. Yeah. He helped me out quite a lot when I was younger, and obviously through the years he's been a really good player. And then loose forward, probably John Bateman.